What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Flagship Podcast. Typically, the voice you'd hear at the open of the podcast is that of my co-host, the illustrious Chip Brown. However, I am Eric Henry of 247 Sports, joined by Chip Brown, and we've got a special guest here as we're doing a live episode of the Flagship with Texas scheduled to play San Jose State this season. Figured no better way to talk about the Spartans by bringing in second-year head coach, veteran head coach, was formerly with Navy, Ken Niumatalolo. Coach, how you doing today?
Eric, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. And hopefully, Coach, I practiced the pronunciation of your name. You have been a mainstay in college football for a while. I hope I did not butcher it. I hope it was somewhere in the ballpark.
Don't worry, I've been called worse by my players, so I'm okay with it.
Coach, how do we pronounce it? I want to hear you say it.
So, it's just breaking in three parts. Niumatalolo, or Niumatalolo. Polynesian names, there's a lot of letters, but there's no silent vowels. I mean, you just pronounce all the syllables.
Chip, you want me to lead off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Coach, just going to jump in right into things with your program. Obviously the most notable player from your program last year, arguably, was wide receiver Nick Nash. Of course, won college ball's triple crown, leading the nation in receiving yards, receptions, and touchdowns. Just curious to start off, just kind of what the process has been. First off, what it was like coaching him? We'll just talk about that, and then the process of replacing him this year.
Well, last year was pretty chaotic, with the portal and, Coach Brennan had just left, it was kind of a chain reaction, obviously, from Coach Saban retiring and DeBoer going to Alabama, then also Fish going to Washington, and then the Coach Brennan left to go to Arizona, so the San Jose State job opened up. It opened up pretty late, but when it obviously was, in NCAA rules, when the coach leaves, the portal opens, and so you get there, you're trying to, keep the ship afloat. Guys are leaving. Just trying to say, hey, just hold tight. Let's, just at least listen to what we have to say. And Nick was one of our top priorities. So he was close to leaving. And I just told him, just trust me, because, everybody thought I was going to run the football and run the options. And I knew already who I was going to hire as my offensive coordinator, Coach Craig Stutzman. And I just told him, hey, just hold tight. Just talk to Coach real quick. And fortunately, he listened. He liked what Coach Stutzman had to say. He had a phenomenal year. But last year at this time was pretty chaotic. We were trying to keep players here. We were in the portal trying to recruit ourselves. I'd been at the Naval Academy for 25 years, so I knew everything about the school, the admissions process, just everything. I was there for so long. And then you get to a school that you don't know anything about. Hiring new staff, admissions, just all the things you take for granted that you have no clue about. It was pretty chaotic last year, but fortunately we were able to have a decent year. But Nick was a big part of our year, and I'm grateful that he stayed.
And just, quick follow-up, Coach, I know obviously you're going to keep some things close to the vest for that week 2 matchup, but just wondering, some of the guys maybe this year who may be on tap to replace Nick's production.
Well, it was a big priority for us. And fortunately, I think that was a big tool in us recruiting. That we could go out, we don't have the huge NIL money or revenue sharing, but we could tell guys, hey, look at our, 2 of our receivers. And the other guy, the number 2 guy, Justin Lockhart, had almost 1,000 yards. Both of them are in camps right now. So it was to our benefit in us going out and recruiting. We actually feel like we're deeper as a group. Receiver wise, from top to bottom, because we were able to go to recruit to what we're looking for. And so one of the guys we brought in, Leland Smith, came from Purdue. Malachi Riley came from Arizona. Danny Scudero came from Sac State. Jahar Johnson, a junior college kid. We had some high school kids coming too, but those are some kids that we feel really good about. All those guys had great springs. Kyrie Scholes was another junior college kid. But just being in the system for a year, I think has helped him too. But those are some guys that are going to try to hit, fill that. Well, Matt Coleman, who actually played in the bowl game. He'd been a player for he's our punt returner, but he stepped in for Nick because Nick didn't play in the bowl game, and he caught over 100 yards worth of balls in the bowl game versus South Florida. So he's coming back. You know what I mean? So those are the guys that are going to be competing. But from what we saw this spring, it's not probably going to just be one guy. There's going to be a few guys that are filling in the wide receiver room.
Gotcha.
Talking to San Jose State coach Ken Niumatalolo. Hopefully I got somewhere close on that. But coach, very impressive because like you said, you came in, there was, an exodus of players, but you had a successful season and the expectations are high for San Jose State in the Mountain West. You're in there with Boise, you're in there with UNLV. And so I'm looking at the key leaders. I was going to ask you about Matt Coleman and Jordan Pollard at linebacker because they're both preseason first team all conference players. So maybe talk about your leaders who are, the tip of the spear for your program.
Well, fortunately for us, the leader of our team and our offense right now is Walker Egan, our quarterback. Again, last year, this time, we didn't even know who our quarterback was. We were still in the quarterback battle. We didn't decide who our quarterback was until the week of the Sacramento State game. We ended up changing halfway through the season to Walker Egan and, Emmett Brown, the guy who was playing, did some really good things. We lost in triple overtime on the road to Washington State, and he was the quarterback then and did some good things, but just kind of felt like to go to the next level, we went with Walker. He finished the season, had some big games, some big wins against Oregon State and Stanford. And, I thought he did some good things. But right now he's the leader and he's the second year in the program. So that definitely helps us. And on defense, it's probably Nella Latu, our outside linebacker, just come back. He's going to be going his third year starting. Jordan Pollard is definitely our leading tackler and probably our best defensive player. Not the biggest linebacker, probably runs in the range of 215 or so, and maybe along the lines of the Leofold kid that you guys have, but obviously Leofold's a lot bigger than him. But that type of athletic guy that can cover, in today's day and game, you can't have box linebackers. You need guys that can run, and that's what Jordan is. And he's the guy that can run sideline to sideline, can cover people, can carry guys down the field in coverage. And those are our leaders right now that coming back into this year.
Coach Ken, just want to follow up. You talked about Walker Egan and, this time last year, not even knowing who your quarterback was. What if you just talk about, similarly to how you spoke about Nick, you talk about Walker's year last year, how he kind of earned your trust as the leader of, the offense and being a leader on this team and kind of what you expect from him heading into this year?
Well, we did some good things at offense, but the one thing, that I definitely know we want to improve on is taking care of the football. We had a lot of turnovers last year. Fortunately, we got a lot of takeaways ourselves. We were second in the country in interceptions, but we gave up the ball way too many times last year. And so that's first and foremost that Walker and our whole offense recognize that we have to do a better job of taking care of the football. We're fifth in the country in throwing the football, but we were interception wise, we threw way too many interceptions. But watching Walker this past spring, we feel really, really good. I mean, we threw the ball. I think Miami might have thrown the ball more than we did, but we only had 12 sacks. So we do a good job of getting rid of the football, but we got to do a better job of taking care of it. And everything that Walker's done in this offseason is pointed to him having mastered the offense better. It's just like anything else. Now he's got a second year in this offense. He was in a different offense before for 3 years. Now being in Coach Stutzman's offense now for the second year. His commanded offense is different now. Um, you can see the timing that he has with the receivers and them knowing what they're doing is much better now. So excited to see what Walker would do this year. Thought he did some really good things last year, but um, I think he's not even scraped the surface of what he can do from potential wise.
Coach, one quick Texas-related follow-up, and hopefully I'm not veering into Chip's territory with this question, but you obviously are doing this, from back in Hawaii. You spoke about the Polynesian culture. Just curious, your interaction, if any, of your career with Texas linebacker coach Johnny Hansen. Just curious, maybe if there's any overlap, any experience in recruiting, or just for any familiarity at all.
Yeah, I mean it's a small fraternity, Polynesian coaches. So most of us know each other, and I definitely know Johnny. He's done a really good job. He's been at many places. He was at SC and with Sark many years ago, and Washington State and different places, I believe. But he's obviously went to Arizona, did a really good job at Arizona. Sark, picked him up again last year and did some really good things there. But yeah, Johnny's had a really nice career over his time, and wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a head coach soon. Well respected in the coaching circle, not just among Polynesian coaches, but among coaches. He's done a really, really good job, especially like I said, at Arizona when he was there. And obviously last year, the Longhorns did a nice job in his first year there.
Gotcha.
Coach, having come from the Naval Academy, the culture of your program, your ability to identify and develop talent. Talk about that philosophy and where you are in the process of building the San Jose State program, where you feel like you've, hit on it and, where you are in the process of building it.
Great question, Chip. And I say this lightly because I don't want to degrade, what the previous culture is like, because everybody coaches differently. Doesn't mean my way is right or so and so is wrong, but we just do things differently. And it took some time. There's some things that I want to install in our culture that was different. First and foremost, I've always believed building a team culture starts with the family. And I thought Coach Brennan and staff did a really good job of doing that. So that was easy to add on to that part. But there are some little things, just like the way we dressed, the way we came out to practice. Guys wearing the same thing, and guys not understand, wait, this is part of our colors. Why can't I wear this stuff? Because we're all wearing the same things. And so there's some discipline factors that I learned at the Naval Academy that you look at any great team. I always tell this guys, I remember I thought, I ran a discipline program at Navy, but I remember going to Alabama's practice and I watched them work out, and all the guys were working out in the same stuff. Just the socks were at the same level. Nobody was wearing different things, all this, everybody was wearing the same thing. Nobody's wearing jewelry. There are some things that I believed in. It wasn't, and trying to install that here at San Jose, it was rough early on. Guys didn't get it, And so there are a lot of guys either running laps, doing up downs, or chasing guys off the field, because guys think I'm a nice person because they see I'm kind of, I don't know, soft spoken or stuff, but don't misconstrue that for what I think is important for us to win. And so I think guys thought it was about a certain color or about jewelry, and I was explaining it has nothing to do with that. It's about discipline. It's about doing things at the right place at the right time. And we went 7-6 last year, but we lost 2 games in overtime. We lost another 2 games by single scores. And I'm just saying, and I could point to that. Hey, we make a play here or there. And it's just little things like where your eyes are at, or where your hands are at, or the depth of a route, or what gap you blitz. It wasn't major stuff, but just little minute details. So it was a lot easier this year when I was installing or talking about discipline, having to tip up on the ball, just ball security. Guys didn't fight me, and they're like, "What does that matter? What does it matter that my feet aren't on the line? Well, what does that matter in football?" And trying to explain to them the attention to detail is discipline, and discipline will obviously win football games. And so, I feel much better this year with that. That it's not like every day I got to come out and fight something. Every day I got to chase somebody back in the locker room because he's doing this, or I got to make somebody do up downs, or somebody's going to take a lap because they're not carrying, they got the tip down. You know what I mean? Just as little ball as just carrying the ball like this with the tip I'm carrying flat could be the difference in the game. And so guys, they have the tip down and I'll chase, make somebody do up downs and they're like, what the ball? Well, what are you guys talking about? And so, but then they can see that how turnovers cost us some games and how that can be critical in the game. So I feel like our culture now is way different than last year. Again, not saying it's right or wrong, but the way I wanted to do things and the type of teams that I want to do. And so a lot of people say, hey, coach, you got a good season, went to bowl games, 7-6. I felt like we left so much out on the field. And having done this for a long time, I know what it takes to have a winning program and to win. And I feel like we're a lot closer this year. We'll see what happens, but I feel much better about going into this season than I did last year.
Coach, I feel like it kind of begs the obvious follow-up from that question that Chip asked in your answer. Was there a different level of maybe, it being rewarding or a different, maybe satisfaction? Because obviously coming from coaching the kids at the Naval Academy, right? And that kind of being, the culture, par for the course, the expectation. Whereas you obviously at San Jose State, again, not shading San Jose State, but it's different than coaching at Naval Academy. Was it any more rewarding that the kids eventually bought into what you were trying to get them to understand?
I found that kids are kids and they're good kids. And if you just hold people accountable and you set expectations and you explain the why, I think that's the thing that I think in my, this will be my 17th year being a head coach. When I was a young coach, I didn't tell you, this is the way we're doing anything. It's my way or the highway, and just do it. And now I still have some strict and stern on some team concepts, but I'm always going to explain why. So I'll have some rules. Okay, why do we do? And I say, and this is why, and this is why. And I think people just want that. And I don't think it's been any different with these kids holding them to a standard. Because like I said, just even a little thing of stretching and your feet not being on the line, at first they're like, what? What does that have anything to do with anything? I mean, it's 2 inches, my toes are on the line. I said, but that's who we are as a football program. Because kind of schools I've been at have been schools that have been under talented. We play guys that maybe are bigger and stronger and faster than us. So we always have to out discipline people to have a chance. And so I feel like as the kids start to recognize this is why we're doing it. This is why we run with the ball like this. This is why we do this. This is why we all wear the same things because it's a team sport and it's a team game. And what one guy does can affect the rest of the entire program. And kids are okay with that. So Eric, I've come to found that people are people, good people are good people, bad people are bad people. It's not a it's not an ethnic deal, it's not a skin deal, it's not a religious deal. There's good and bad. And you just hold people accountable. And you just as I feel like if you just tell people why, kids are cool. You know what I mean? And like I said, in our team, there's a lot of demographics. We got black kids, we got white kids, we got Polynesian kids, we got kids from inner cities, some kids from maybe in rural parts of California. People are people. Just treat them with respect. Tell them why you do things. It's nothing personal, has nothing to do with you in particular. We're just holding you to a standard. And when guys understand that, everybody's cool.
Coach, you had an unbelievable game with Washington State last year, 54-52, overtime, a tough, heartbreaking loss for you all. The quarterback at Washington State last year is now in the SEC, John Mateer. Just give me your thoughts on John Mateer and how you think his game will translate to the SEC.
Well, let me just say this. So being at the Naval Academy all those years, I mean, we played Ohio State twice, played Notre Dame every year. I've been to South Carolina. So what I'm saying, I mean, we've played big time football against big time people over the years. And after that game, well, actually, I remember watching their game prior to playing them. Um, And when they played Washington, I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. And just trying to think of what are the things we can do. We recognized that he was super athletic. And so, like most people, we try to have somebody in the box or a spot guy to try to contain him. And we come to realize that's great to have somebody there, but that guy better be able to catch him. It's one thing to have him in there. And I thought he did a phenomenal job. The hard thing about him, he's athletic, he extends plays, but he's a passer. You know what I mean? He can extend plays with his legs, but he's looking downfield. He's not just looking to run. He can. He can scramble and get the first down when he needs it. And so, we felt like last year we had him boxed up so many times, and he eluded us and kept the sticks moving. Third and long, he'd break a couple tackles and get first down. And I thought after the game, I remember sitting out, talking with our defensive guys, and I said, man, that guy is as good as I've seen. And this is early on. I mean, I can't remember what game that was. 3 games into the season.
Yeah.
But this is just my experience having seen quarterbacks over the years. I'm like, I don't know if I've seen a guy like that can scramble. Um, when you see him, he's not the biggest guy, but you recognize he can make all the throws. He's got a strong arm. He can run. He's smart. He keeps his eyes downfield. And so when he entered the portal and there was that big push for him and everybody in the country was after him, it didn't surprise me, to be honest with you, because I got to see his talent up close and personal. And it didn't take everybody in the country trying to recruit him to let me know, oh, yeah, that clarifies that he was a good player. I knew before that.
Yeah.
I've been coaching college football for 36 years. Is like, said, oh my gosh, this guy is unbelievable. So I think it's going to help him having his offensive coordinator. You know what I mean? And so I think it was like Caleb Williams with Lincoln Riley going to SC. I mean, he's not learning new verbiage. I think that at times can be tough. No matter how good your quarterback is, going to a new system and trying to figure things out. I think him having the same coordinator is going to help him. You know what I mean? Being able to, it'll be seamless, as he makes this move. Obviously, the competition is way different in the SEC, but at least he's going where he knows the terminology. He's not trying to figure that stuff out. And I think that will allow his play to not to struggle as much. The struggle from his play will come because of the talent he's playing, not from not knowing what the schemes are or what the verbiage is or terminology.
Coach, this will be the last one for me, and I'll pass back to Chip after this if he has another follow-up. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, and I know, listen, you're a long way out from game prep, so certainly not in game week, but just if you could talk, this far out about the opportunity to take your team to Texas and maybe from a broad perspective, what you've seen from the Longhorns.
Well, when I first got here last year and I was looking at our schedule, looking at future schedules, and I saw them, like, who the heck schedules that game? That was my initial thought. Like, why are we scheduling those guys? But obviously, they've always been a great program. I'm really good friends with Mac Brown. So I've been friends with him for many years. So when Mac was there, obviously he's done a great job. I know Coach Strong, and Tom Herman was at Houston, so I coached against him prior to him going to be a Longhorn. And so they've obviously had great programs for many years, but Sark is taking them to another level, to a level that, I'm sure Longhorn fans wants him to be, but he's everything that he's done there and all the accolades and recognition that Texas is getting is well deserved. I've watched them a lot the last couple of years just because they're on TV all the time. So you get to see them, and I mean, phenomenal football team. I mean, Sark has always been a great football coach, and the coaches that he's had on the staff, Coach Hansen and all the other guys, Coach Floyd, is phenomenal O-line coach, just so they've had great coaches over the years, but I think Sark coming there is taking it to another level. He's always been a great coach, but I think being with Coach Saban, you can only get better being around the GOAT. So however many years, Coach was with him, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, whatever, 2 years. But, being around that guy for that long can only help you. And you can see it in the program. Like, again, he was always a great coach at SC and Washington and different places he's been. But you can see the program's gone to another level. He has all the resources there. They have all the resources, and they're maximizing it. So it's not like a program that has these worse resources and they're not capitalizing. They've been a play away from, national championship stuff, so they're not far off. And so, yeah, it'd be, we're gonna have to play phenomenal just to even have a chance against those guys. Be a great opportunity for us, but we recognize that they're for real. They're a for real football program that's recruited a ton of great players with all the resources, with a phenomenal staff. And when you combine all of those together, unfortunately, we have to be opponent, but it normally tends to what they've been the last couple of years. What they've done the last couple of years is not a fluke. And so they are where they are because of their production. They are where they are not because of preseason polls or preseason predictions or any of that kind of stuff. They are where they are because of what they've done on the field. The last couple of years, it's what they've done on the field has been amazing.
Gotcha.
Coach, last thing from me, with the advent of rev share and in the state of NIL and the transfer portal, how do you continue to operate and be competitive in this new era?
So another great question. It is what it is. We're opting into the rev share. We don't have what everybody else has. And we just got to deal with what we have. To me, it's like I'm in Hawaii right now, and Ala Moana shopping center, one of the major malls over there. Just there's some high end stores there. On the third level. We just know we can't go shopping there. We'll go to the first floor, and we'll do our shopping in different places, and we'll do the best we can and try to coach the best we can on that. But obviously, there's a difference, and I'm not complaining about it. I'm happy for the players that they get to get theirs. I'd imagine eventually there's going to be a separation. I know that a lot of coaches have been talking about that for years. Maybe a power 60 or whatever. Just right now you can kind of see the SEC and the Big Ten kind of separating themselves from everybody else, and you can kind of see maybe eventually those two guys and maybe taking the best of the SEC, ACC, and the best of the Big 12 and going and having one conference with a commissioner where you can regulate things. And again, all the guys that are the Texases of the world that are getting all the power to it. I'm not jealous of them, nor that begrudge any of them. It's part of the world we live in. We get what we can get and go shop where we can shop and try to coach our guys the best we can. And that's kind of been my approach. Don't cry about things or don't complain about it. It's the world. It's the environment we live in. And we were able to sign some guys in the portal this year. And some of those guys that came from Power 4 schools. And some of those guys say, Coach, been there, done that, got somewhere, but looking for an opportunity. And so, hopefully there's some guys that maybe have gone that route, maybe not getting as much playing time, that can kind of come and, play at a place like this, our level. But that's kind of how we approached it. Just know what our budget is, know who we can recruit, who we can cater to, not complain about it, and then get the guys we can get and try to build a family and go fight and try to battle as best we can.
I appreciate it.
Coach, cannot thank you enough for getting up early out there in Hawaii. Appreciate you making the time here to hop on the show with us. Also want to thank Sky Kirstein over at San Jose State for facilitating this, making this possible. Coach, best of luck throughout the remainder of the offseason. We look forward to seeing you week 2 in Austin. And thank you to our audience on YouTube, our audience on Twitter. Thank you for watching and listening. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. The bosses will certainly appreciate that. For Texas insider and columnist Chip Brown, I am Texas beat writer Eric Henry. And as Chip would say, stay safe and keep the faith.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Thank you. Take care.